For decades, Iran and Israel fought a shadow war, covert operations, cyber attacks and proxy battles, always just short of open conflict. Each side tested the other's resolve, striking from the darkness, careful never to cross the line into all-out war. The world watched as sabotage, assassinations and digital attacks became the language of their rivalry, with civilians often caught in the crossfire. But in June 2025, that changed overnight. The shadows vanished as Iran launched a direct missile and drone barrage at Israel. The world was jolted awake as the conflict leapt from the hidden realm into the open, with explosions lighting up the night sky and sirens wailing across cities. The world watched in shock as the simmering Cold War erupted into a hot, devastating conflict. Newsrooms scrambled to cover the unfolding crisis, and millions held their breath, fearing what might come next. Iran's leadership gambled that their missile arsenal could challenge Israel directly, betting the US would hesitate to intervene. It was a high-stakes move, risking escalation on a scale not seen in the region for years. This was no longer about proxies, it was a direct strike from Iranian soil to Israel's heart. The world's attention shifted to the skies as missiles arced across borders, threatening to ignite a much wider war. The attack was a political statement. Iran was done fighting in the shadows. Tehran's leaders declared their intentions openly, rallying their people and sending a message to the world. Over 70 missiles and swarms of drones marked the largest direct assault in the region in years. Israel's defenses scrambled to intercept the onslaught as the scale of the attack stunned military analysts everywhere. The era of deniable attacks was over, replaced by open war with global consequences. Diplomats rushed to respond, and military forces across the region braced for what could come next. The Middle East had entered a terrifying new chapter, one where the stakes were higher than ever, and the world could only hope to contain the flames. Air raid sirens wailed across Israel, piercing the night and echoing through city streets. For years, these sirens had been a warning, an urgent call to seek shelter, a signal that danger was near, but could be survived. But this time, the threat was unlike anything Israelis had faced before. The fear in the air was palpable as families huddled together, uncertain of what would come next. Iran's attack didn't just target border towns or military outposts. Instead, it struck at the very heart of Israel, Tel Aviv and Haifa, cities that had long felt untouchable, now suddenly vulnerable. In Bat Yam, a missile tore through a 10-story apartment building, reducing it to rubble. 6 people lost their lives instantly, and the scene was one of utter chaos and devastation. Haifa's industrial zone was also hit hard. Explosions ignited oil pipelines, sending flames and thick smoke into the night sky. While entire neighborhoods were plunged into darkness and confusion, the strikes overwhelmed emergency services. Hospitals overflowed with more than 370 injured, and at least 13 people were killed, including children. Medical staff worked through exhaustion, racing to save lives. Dozens remained missing beneath the rubble as rescue teams searched desperately through the night, hoping for miracles amid the devastation. Israel's famed bomb shelters and advanced warning systems saved countless lives. But even these measures couldn't prevent tragedy on such a scale. For the first time in a generation, a foreign state had inflicted mass casualties deep inside Israel's cities, shattering a sense of security that had endured for decades. The psychological blow was as severe as the physical destruction. Shock and grief rippled through communities as neighbors comforted one another in the aftermath. The sense of invulnerability that many Israelis once felt was gone, replaced by anxiety and uncertainty about what the future might hold. The war was no longer distant or abstract. It was now at Israel's very doorstep, changing lives forever. Israel's multi-layered air defense, Iron Dome, David's Sling, Arrow, was considered nearly impenetrable, but Iran's attack was designed to overwhelm it, a coordinated barrage of missiles and drones launched in waves. Drones acted as decoys, forcing Israel to use up interceptors, while ballistic missiles followed on complex trajectories. Some missiles used countermeasures to evade interception. The sheer volume exceeded the system's capacity, letting some missiles slip through. Even with US support and air-to-air interceptions, not every threat could be stopped. The myth of perfect defense was shattered. Israel realized that even the best technology has limits. The home front was vulnerable, after all. Israel's response was immediate and overwhelming. The Air Force struck over 250 targets across Iran in 3 days, focusing on military and nuclear infrastructure. Tehran was hit hard. Defense Ministry, IRGC compounds, weapons factories, and oil depots were destroyed. Targeted assassinations eliminated senior IRGC commanders, including the Chief of Intelligence. Strikes on Natanz and Isfahan nuclear sites set Iran's program back months, crossing a major red line. The message, Israel could reach anywhere, anytime. The retaliation aimed to cripple Iran's capabilities and deter future attacks. But the deeply buried Fordow facility survived, showing Israel's limits. The risk of catastrophic escalation loomed. As Iran and Israel traded blows, the world's superpowers watched, wary of being drawn in. The US distanced itself from Israel's strikes, warning Iran not to target American interests. President Trump's administration provided intelligence but avoided direct involvement, fearing a wider war. Congress urged restraint, reflecting America's reluctance for another Middle East conflict. Russia and China called for calm but did little, seeing the crisis as a challenge to US influence. Europe condemned the violence but lacked leverage. The UN Security Council was paralyzed by great power rivalry. The conflict exposed a new reality. Regional actors were acting on their own, with little fear of outside intervention. Iran and Israel fought with starkly different strategies. Iran used massed missiles and drones to overwhelm defenses, aiming to inflict pain and prove its reach. Drones confused Israeli radars and drew fire from interceptors, while missiles targeted cities and infrastructure. Iran's message, it could make any attack on it costly. Israel, unable to defend perfectly, struck back with surgical precision, targeting command centers, weapons factories, and nuclear sites. The goal, cripple Iran's warfighting ability and deter future threats. Precision strikes aim for maximum effect with minimal collateral damage, though civilian casualties were inevitable. Both sides showed the evolution of modern warfare: numbers versus technology, pain versus precision. By mid-June 2025, the Middle East teetered on the brink, with tensions at their highest point in years and the world watching anxiously. Both Iran and Israel vowed further retaliation, locked in a dangerous cycle of escalation that threatened to spiral out of control. Israel's leaders promised to dismantle Iran's military and nuclear capabilities, insisting that only decisive action could guarantee their nation's safety. Iran, meanwhile, threatened even larger attacks, boasting thousands of missiles in reserve and warning that any strike would be met with overwhelming force. The risk of miscalculation and a wider regional war was real, with soldiers on high alert and civilians bracing for the worst. A ceasefire would require intense, sustained diplomacy, likely brokered by neutral states such as Switzerland, Oman, or Qatar, with strong US backing and support from the international community. The first step, halt attacks and open negotiations, would be difficult, but it's the only path to de-escalation. Long-term peace demands addressing Iran's nuclear ambitions and regional activities, Israel's security concerns, and the fears of ordinary people on both sides. Without urgent diplomacy, the region faces a conflict far more destructive than anything seen so far. The clock is ticking, and the world holds its breath.